me go ahead and get started. I don't want to hold you too long. My name is Chandra Gore. I am covering your story for NewsBreak. And I first want to thank you for talking to me, but also introduce yourself and explain what Higher Purpose Hub is, please.
Yeah, so my name is Dr. Tim Lampkin. I'm the founder and CEO of Higher Purpose Co. And we are an economic opportunity nonprofit here in Mississippi. We've been around since 2016, and we have been working in the areas of business ownership, arts and culture, public policy, workforce development, and food justice for a number of years. And so we're really excited about particularly the Higher Purpose Hub, because it's bringing together all those different elements that I just talked about into one particular place. And so we were really excited recently to receive a $2.2 million grant to support the work that we're doing around the Higher Purpose Hub, which is essentially a destination that we're calling it, filled with numerous of services that will be catering towards the community needs, such as a food hall, a multi-purpose theater, civil rights museum, retail space, and so many other amazing things that we're able to offer to the community here in the Mississippi Delta.
I love that because I will say I'm from the South, but I'm not from the Delta. But I know that
Okay.
resources that are in in the southern states, it's few and far between sometimes. Like it's very hard to we have to do a little bit more to show that we are economically sound. We do have the mindset to actually grow a thriving business and stuff. So I'm loving the fact that one, that the you all receive that kind of an endowment, and two, the multifacets of what you're offering to individuals. So they don't have to go to Houston, they don't have to go to Atlanta, they don't have to, come to the bigger metro areas, which is beautiful. So what motivated you to start, this economic justice nonprofit?
Well, what motivated me was basically seeing the need in the community. I think it was really evident to me that there was a huge gap between creating access and resources for particularly Black residents here in Mississippi. And we all know the kind of the narrative of Mississippi and the historic racism, but what we don't talk about often is the folks on the ground actually creating the solutions. And so I wanted to be a part of creating solutions and not get wrapped up in the narrative of talking about everything that's going wrong, but actually putting my knowledge and expertise and network to really create some solutions. And so it was really rooted in that, understanding the historic context of Mississippi, but also just being a little bit innovative and creative to really be on the other side of history as it relates to creating resources for Black residents here in Mississippi.
Because I will say, David Banner is an individual
Okay.
that I admire that's from that area, from Mississippi. And I'm like, that's the way that, it all, like the first thing I thought about was like, yo, there's so many great minds, because they all, they say in the South where, it's that whole we have that same mindset from, back in the day, but we don't. And it's amazing to see, like, you're disrupting that. You are making sure that it's known that some of the greatest business minds are coming out of the Delta. So what have been some of the key some of the major milestones and major programming, the things that have come out of your program?
Yeah, so one of the things that we started to do in 2019 is really create a grant program. So was one of the first organizations in Mississippi to kind of stand up a grant program, particularly to support Black entrepreneurs, farmers, and artists. And so in the last couple of years, I would say since 2019, we've been able to deploy about $1.5 million directly to businesses across the state of Mississippi. And so that's been really exciting for us as we continue to be not just a kind of a convener of resources, but also how we're, sending resources back out to the community in the form of, grant dollars. I think that's also really important. The other beauty to our amazing work is our members. So we represent over 800 community members across the state, and several of those businesses and entrepreneurs and farmers and artists have went on to do some amazing things. So we've been able to help people start their business from a small room to having a warehouse where they're, generating, millions of dollars to support them. We've helped people buy buildings on Main Street to open up fresh food and smoothie shops to create opportunities for that. We've also helped people open up urgent care centers to provide healthcare services directly to the community. And so as we are building a network of community members across the state, their impact is also creating this ripple effect. And by us being invested in them, they're also reinvesting in their communities.
So it is creating a sustainable model that will continue to grow for generations to come.
Yes, and in my opinion, and to kind of line in what you're saying around the generation, our work is very much so multi-generational. And so I think that's also really critical as you think about creating not only exciting things right now, but how do you create a legacy? And so we really believe that's also rooted in a lot of the work we do around community education, storytelling, and the grant making.
So, there's so many different things. Like I have so many like questions because it's like, the educational part where you're teaching businesses how to remain, relevant and also focus on their business practices and stuff like that. But it's just not giving money. It's actually teaching them how to use it. So, what you said about farmers and things like that. So, how have because Black farmers have, they had an issue. Well, they won the lawsuit with the US, it's not USDA, but the federal side of funding for Black farmers. How has that impacted the farmers that you're working with, that have worked with you to create these spaces, or this generating this revenue that's generated?
Well, I think we also have to like take into context that those funds from the federal government were basically well overdue. And that amount of capital, while it was helpful, it still is not going to completely right the wrong that has been done for decades of Black farmers. And so what we have been able to do with our resources is to really kind of shore up that need for capital by providing those direct access to grants. We've also have created other initiatives to create access to markets, because it's not just enough to grow food. You have to actually have markets to sell it to, right?
Right.
Not just farmers markets, but also anchor institutions to be able to create other products, value added products to sell to grocery stores and to other restaurants and things like that. And so what we've created over the last 12 months is our program called Higher Purpose Food, where we've been working particularly with a select number of food entrepreneurs and farmers to really help them understand and gain access to larger markets. So they're also getting capital, they're getting the education, and what we're getting into in the next couple of weeks is talking about their stories, how important it is to talk about not only the entrepreneur, but also their communities, their families, and how they are able to really create a larger impact. And so those three parts of our work, which we call our tools: community education, storytelling, and grant making, we believe those are the tools that we're able to integrate throughout all the parts of our work. And so we do the same thing if we're talking with artists. We're doing the same thing if we're talking with young people as they're thinking about workforce development. All those things are really essential to the work that we do.
And I love that. So, because I had to ask that because it's like, coming from a family, we that have been around farmers, been around people came from sharecropping and stuff like that. It's very important that we kind of make sure the resources are there. So, how do you see the future of Black entrepreneurship in Mississippi? And how do you see that playing in a part of, like you said, you're ensuring they have access, but in the part of the whole United States, like where do you see that, fitting in more like more nationally and globally?
Well, I think it's something that we have to continue to invest in, right?
Mhm.
It shouldn't necessarily be something that we do. When I say something that we do, particularly the industry, we have to move from this charity mindset to that this is actually a good investment. And so
Right.
how do we have those conversations around the ROI in terms of supporting and investing directly into Black entrepreneurship in these ecosystems? I think the other part of this is creating spaces
Mhm.
for Black entrepreneurs to learn, to thrive, to connect. And so that's something that we do here at Higher Purpose Co. through our annual Money Purpose Success Summit. It's one of the largest summits in the state of Mississippi that's focused on helping Black entrepreneurs grow and thrive. And so I think we have to continue to elevate those spaces. And I think the third thing is really it's a policy issue. We have to really make sure that the policies on the state and the federal level are making sure that it is easier for Black entrepreneurs, farmers, artists, whoever may want to go into business for themselves, that business ownership is more accessible and attainable for anyone, regardless of what they look like and where they come from.
I love that. So what other advice would you give to other leaders and organizations who are working towards a similar goals of economic justice and equity? Like what, outside of Mississippi, but what advice would you give someone in Arizona or somewhere else? Like what advice would you give them so that they can get the ball rolling for themselves?
Well, one of the first things I would say is make sure you're doing this work for the right reason. And I know that sounds like very simple, but it's also really true, right? So I
Yeah,
wake up and do this work every day, not because I get paid to do it. I do it because I actually love doing this work. And I think that's also really important that this doesn't really feel like work. It feels more like a calling to me.
right.
So I think understanding why you're doing this work and really making sure that it resonates with who you are as an individual. I think the second thing is to make sure you do this work with community, right? So oftentimes where people fail, particularly in the nonprofit sector, we would say, well, we're doing this to that community. And I'm of the mindset to say, no, we're doing this with community because without community, then there's no organization. And so I think that's really important that you have a really true, deep community engagement strategy to make sure that you're checking in with the people that you say you're serving. I think the third thing is to think about sustainability. So we've been around since 2016. We were talking about supporting Black businesses, farmers, and artists well before it became a
Right.
trendy thing to do, right? And so I think also thinking about how do you sustain when what you're doing is not trendy, and how do you stay committed to the mission that you originally set out to accomplish. So I think that's also really important as you're thinking about creating change and impact in the community. So that's what I would say to other leaders that are out here on a similar journey.
Okay, I love that because I always say, oh, your community is your net worth, and you cannot exist without it. And that's one of the things that I really look at if I'm donating to something. What have they done in the community? Like, because I want to make sure those dollars are going back to individuals who really make the community work, who actually are doing the work. So I love that. So, but looking ahead, what are your aspirations for higher purpose and the broader movement?
Well, we really see ourselves as economic organizers. So if you really look at all of our work, it's really rooted around economics, right? So what we really want to be able to continue to do is really create a pathway for not only our organization, but also to create models that can be replicated across the South, across the country. So we really want to make sure that we are creating this blueprint for other individuals, particularly that have issues and barriers similar to what we are facing here in Mississippi to really take it upon themselves to be what I'd like to describe as solutionaries, right? And so I think that's super important. So we want to continue to create the pathway around economic organizing in a new and kind of contemporary way. I think the other part of this too is that we want to think about other spaces and places that we can create where particularly Black folks here in the South have an opportunity to create more economic mobility for communities, businesses, farmers, and really turn the traditional thinking around economic development upside down. So one of the things that we're doing is creating our festival, Higher Purpose Fest, which we are hoping to bring in about 5,000 people this year. And so the goal of that is not just to come and have a great time, but also to drive the local economics in terms of bringing in tax dollars to create more excitement and buzz, awareness around our cities. So we're not only becoming just an ambassador for Clarksdale and the Delta, well, we see ourselves as being an ambassador for the entire state of Mississippi. And when we say, hey, come do business with us, you are invited to think about Mississippi in a different way. And so we are really moving towards in that direction. So the first thing, economic organizing. The second thing, really being an ambassador for the state of Mississippi. And then the third thing I would say is really making sure that we're galvanizing the entire philanthropic community to bring in more dollars to Mississippi and to the South. Because we know historically there has been underserved communities, and what I like to describe as underestimated communities have been overlooked in terms of getting access to capital. And so we want to really be a convener of those conversations and resources to make sure more money is flowing to the South than ever before. So those are the things that we are excited about, and all those aspects that will allow us to continue to create what we believe as one of the most exciting, innovative economic opportunity organizations, not just in the state of Mississippi or the South, but the entire country.
I love that. So, okay, I've got to wrap it up, but where can people reach out to you to find out more? And also, how can they sign up to be the first to know anything that's going on with Higher Purpose? Because I need to come to Mississippi just
Yeah, come on, pull up on us.
the Delta. So yeah.
Yeah, so folks can connect with me at Dr. Tim Lampkin on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, as well as our organization Higher Purpose Co. At Higher Purpose Co. on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, and then our website www.higherpurposeco.org. We are a nonprofit, so we're always looking for some folks to pitch in and make some donations to keep elevating our work. But definitely, you can go there and sign up for our newsletter, and we have some exciting things in store. And so we hope people take this as an invitation to come to Mississippi and to be a part of the work that we're already doing here.
And I want to thank you so much for sharing your amazing, amazing organization and the work that you're doing. People, please listen. Mississippi, the South is really a place that's growing, and it's, get out of the mindset a little bit, but also see what's going on. And I love your premise. I love your organization. So thank you so much for talking to me today. I am remotivated now because I've mentioned David Banner before, but it's like you have given more more knowledge and more space. So I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of your organization and also Mississippi.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You have a great day.
Okay.
Bye-bye.